Why did silence sting more than the words that came before it? That was the question circling Evelyn Reeves' mind as laughter echoed across the emergency room, laughter that wasn't hers, laughter that felt sharpened, pointed, meant to cut. She didn't flinch when the medical director called her a dinosaur. She didn't react when 23 coworkers looked on, some amused, others relieved, as if watching an old machine finally break down. But she felt the silence that followed afterward, heavy, accusing. Final. She stood with one hand still resting on the neck of the patient she had just lost, her fingers angled at the exact point only combat medics memorize. Her breathing remained steady, 4 counts in, 4 out. Muscle memory, discipline, a habit built long before civilian hospitals and night shift politics. But no one noticed. They only saw a middle-aged nurse in blood-stained scrubs, fired before dawn. Dr. Harrison Webb stood in the center of the trauma bay like an emperor passing judgment. "You're done, Evelyn. Security will escort you out after this shift ends." His voice boomed above the beeping monitors, cold and precise. Nobody questioned him. Nobody wondered why her hand remained positioned on the carotid artery of a woman, whose body still displayed a pattern of rigidity no modern textbook could explain. Only Evelyn saw the toxicology alert on the monitor. Nerve agent suspected. Only Evelyn saw how fast it vanished, erased by Webb's quick hand, cleared before anyone else could read it. They dismissed her as obsolete before understanding. She was the only one in the room who knew what had just killed the patient. She stepped away, folding her scrubs in tight military corners, 6 seconds flat. No wasted motion, no wasted breath, no wasted emotion. And yet, as she walked toward the break room, a quiet ache settled beneath her ribs. Not sadness, not fear, something more dangerous. Recognition. She'd seen this before. She just didn't know she was walking straight toward it again. Inside the break room, her movements were efficient, controlled. Younger nurses stepped aside as if instinctively acknowledging a gravity around her they didn't understand. Some offered sympathetic glances, the kind that said thank God it wasn't me, while others smirked with the cruelty of people who had never been tested by life outside fluorescent lights. Diane Morrison, night shift manager, whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. She couldn't keep up. "I've been documenting her failures for months." Failures? If they only knew. Evelyn zipped her bag and inhaled once. The smell of burnt coffee, antiseptic, cold air from the malfunctioning vent. No battlefield had ever felt this hostile, and yet she had survived far worse. Chief Hayes stepped into the doorway. A 60-year-old veteran turned hospital security guard, broad-shouldered, eyes sharp in ways most people overlooked. But not Evelyn. And definitely not Hayes, who watched her pack as if trying to place a memory. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Every career ends, Chief. Some just end quietly. The way she said Chief made him pause. He hadn't told her his rank. He hadn't told anyone here. He stared as she folded her spare scrubs with military precision, corners aligned perfectly, perfectly. Something about her no longer fit the story everyone believed. She could already feel the night shifting, like a storm tightening around her, like something waking up. At 4:05 a.m., 2 security guards arrived to escort her out, boys, really, young enough to have been her sons. Their stance uncertain, their eyes flicking between her and their phones. "Ma'am, we need to walk you out now." Evelyn nodded once and followed, not a tremor in her hands, not a trace of panic in her steps. But inside, her instincts, the ones she'd spent 10 years burying, began to stir, slowly, deeply. They passed the trauma rooms. The hazmat team already surrounded Jane Doe's body. A detection device beeped in a pattern only a certain kind of soldier would recognize. 3 short. 3 long. 3 short. Most would think it was malfunctioning. But Evelyn knew better. As she reached the exit, young lab tech Bradley Chen accidentally intercepted them, thrusting paperwork at her. "Sign here, no rush, actually hurry." His whisper was barely audible. The toxicology system flagged something classified, then it disappeared. Someone scrubbed it. She didn't react, not outwardly. But she paused for precisely 1.5 seconds before signing. The guards didn't notice. They were busy talking about video games and breakfast plans. But Hayes noticed. He always noticed. When they reached the parking lot, cold desert wind swept across the asphalt. Sodium lights cast everything in sickly orange. At this hour, only a few cars remained, quiet metal silhouettes against the Nevada night. Except for 3 black SUVs. Perfect tactical spacing, engines running, forming a funnel around the lot exit. Evelyn felt her chest tighten, not with fear but with certainty. They weren't here by coincidence. She unlocked her old Honda. The engine coughed awake. She started rolling toward the exit at exactly 15 mph, the posted speed limit. Nothing dramatic, nothing suspicious. Like a fired nurse heading home. The SUVs began to move. Hayes stepped outside suddenly, pretending to smoke. But his eyes, they weren't casual. They scanned patterns, angles, lanes of fire. He caught her gaze in the side mirror. He mouthed one word. "Run." But she didn't run. Not yet. She watched the lead SUV's window roll down. A man stepped out holding a badge angled perfectly to obscure tiny details. Evelyn Reeves, FBI, stepped out of the vehicle. Her heartbeat didn't change. Her breath didn't hitch. Her mind simply sharpened. In 0.3 seconds, her eyes cataloged 17 inconsistencies. Badge cut wrong, holster wrong, earpiece wrong, suit wrong, posture wrong. Not FBI. Not even close. National security, he said. A phrase she hadn't heard since Syria. A phrase used to bury sins. She reached for her phone. "I need to call my lawyer." "No calls," the man snapped. "Now." Weapons unholstered behind him, too high to be government regulation. Hayes stepped forward slowly. "Funny, I thought federal agents were required to allow verification." The fake agent didn't even bother with protocol. He reached for his gun. And that's when Evelyn heard it, faint, distant, unmistakable. The deep thrum of twin turboshaft engines slicing through desert air. Then another. 2 aircraft. Low. Vast. Coming straight for the hospital. The mercenaries looked up, confused. Real agents would have been warned about military aircraft. But these men weren't real agents. The sky split open as 2 HH-60 Pave Hawks thundered overhead, their searchlights slashing across the lot like white fire. Rotor wash slammed across the pavement, sending papers and sand swirling violently. 50 feet away, one helicopter landed hard, aggressive, precise. The other circled above like a guardian. The side door slid open. 3 operators stepped out. And the lead one shouted through the roar. "Evelyn Reeves, do not get in those vehicles. They are not FBI." Everything froze. The mercenaries. Hayes. The guards. The night itself. Someone else spoke next, a voice ripped straight from Evelyn's past. "He's dying, Evelyn," the major said. "You're the only one who can save him." Her breath caught. Not in fear. In recognition. There was only one man whose life would justify this level of military intervention. Mark Danner. A man she thought she buried 10 years ago. A man she saved once. A man dying again. "Who exposed him?" she whispered. The major's answer hit like a blade sliding between ribs. A nerve agent designed by someone who knows Seraphim. Someone who knows exactly what Evelyn knows. Someone who wants it erased. And for the first time in a decade, she felt a part of herself unlock, a part she thought she'd buried forever. "Get in the helicopter, ma'am," the major pleaded. "We're running out of time." She didn't move toward safety. She moved toward fate, toward the truth, toward the past that refused to stay dead, and toward a man she once risked everything to save. Why did her hand stop trembling the moment danger returned? That was the strange thought crossing Evelyn's mind as she stepped toward the open helicopter door, the desert wind tearing at her clothes, the roar of the pave hawk vibrating through her bones. She hadn't felt this steadiness, this clarity, this purpose in 10 long years. Not since Syria, not since Seraphim, not since Mark. Behind her, chaos erupted in the parking lot. The mercenary SUVs reversed in panic, two colliding in their scramble. The third tried to flee, only to be blinded by the Overwatch helicopter's searchlight. Hayes shouted something she couldn't hear, one hand shielding his face, the other gripping a weapon he hadn't used since his military days. But Evelyn didn't look back. She was done hiding. Inside the helicopter, the air was colder, cleaner, filled with the scent of metal and fuel. Soldiers shifted to make room. Helmets, harnesses, eyes full of urgency. All of them looking at her not like a washed-up nurse, not like someone disposable, but like an asset, a specialist, the last of 7. "Strap in," the major commanded. The floor trembled as the bird lifted. The hospital shrank beneath them, the parking lot now filled with flashing lights, police vehicles, military trucks, and swirling dust. Hayes looked up one last time, offering a small nod of respect, a soldier's farewell. She returned it. Barely. Her chest tightened. She didn't have the luxury to feel anything yet. As the helicopter gained altitude, the major clipped in and switched to internal comms. His voice came through her headset, steady but edged with desperation. "Lieutenant Mark Danner was exposed at 200 hours. Progression of symptoms matches the exact pattern you saw tonight." She inhaled sharply. "Jane Doe." "Same toxin," he confirmed. "Same classification, same signature." She closed her eyes, letting the truth settle. This wasn't random. This wasn't an accident. This was a message. "How bad?" she asked. The major hesitated. "Bad enough that he won't survive another hour without you." Her heart faltered a single stutter before settling into a rhythm she hadn't felt in years, a rhythm tied to memory, to loyalty, to regret. "How long until we reach him?" 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Not enough time. But maybe just enough. She looked at the major closely for the first time. Sharp jaw, steady hands, rank insignia she recognized from another lifetime. Air Force Special Operations, not a man prone to panic. But beneath his professionalism, she saw something unexpected. Fear. Not fear of failure. Fear of losing someone he admired. Or someone important to something much bigger. "He asked for you," the major said suddenly, before he lost consciousness. Evelyn's breath caught. "Are you sure?" "Ma'am, he didn't ask, he insisted." A pulse of warmth cut through her chest, one she quickly suffocated. Emotions were dangerous in her line of work, deadly even. She stared out the window as the helicopter cut across the desert sky. The city lights of Las Vegas shimmered below them, a glittering oasis in the dark. Civilian life continued, unaware that 2 helicopters had scrambled for a single nurse, unaware of the silent war unfolding beneath their feet. "Why now?" she murmured aloud, "after all these years?" "We don't know," the major admitted, "but all 6 other Seraphim participants are dead. Accidents, suicides, medical emergencies." She stiffened. "No," she whispered, "they weren't accidents." "We know that now," he replied, "and tonight they came for him." "And me," she added quietly. He didn't argue. The hum of the rotors deepened. And then something she hadn't expected. A memory. Mark laughing under a burning Syrian sky, blood dripping from his temple as he held on to life by sheer force of will. "You're not losing me today, Reeves," he had whispered. And she had believed him. But then command told her he died 24 hours later. Told her the mission failed. Told her to sign the papers. Told her to disappear. Lies. All of it. "Does he know I thought he was dead?" she asked quietly. The major's face tightened. "He knows now." Her throat constricted. She blinked hard. "Not now, not here." The major changed tone deliberately, giving her something else to focus on. "Walk me through what you saw at the hospital. You recognized something the ER staff didn't." Evelyn exhaled slowly, letting her training take over. Pupil dilation, muscle rigidity, respiratory rhythm, all wrong for standard seizures, too fast, too synchronized, too familiar. He nodded. "It matches what we recovered from the test site." A chill ran down her spine. "So it's the same compound from Syria?" "No," he said, "it's worse. A synthetic variant, more stable, more targeted." Targeted? Of course it was. "Someone wants Mark dead," she whispered, "and they want me silenced." "We believe the same," the major replied. Her mind shifted into battlefield mode, years of buried instincts roaring awake. Who had access to his gear? Only Tier 1 authorization. She froze. Tier 1. The highest clearance. Only Seraphim-level personnel would know how to modify the toxin. Or someone who studied them. Or someone who wanted them all gone. Her voice barely held steady when she asked, "Who's running this investigation?" The major looked away. She felt her stomach drop. "Don't tell me," she whispered. The major hesitated long enough for her to know she was right. "Colonel Sparks is involved, isn't he?" He swallowed. "Colonel Sparks died 3 years ago." "No," she said, voice flat, "he didn't." "How can you be sure?" Because she knew. Because she'd seen the signs. Because someone had been erasing the past one survivor at a time. Everything inside her sharpened, tightened, aligned. The helicopter banked hard. Lights appeared below. A battlefield disguised as a medical site. A forward surgical unit had been assembled on a stretch of desert, floodlights illuminating tents, equipment, soldiers, medics. Controlled chaos, adrenaline in the air. At the center, one tent glowed brighter than the rest. "He's in there." "Alive." "Barely." The helicopter touched down with a jarring thud. The crew chief swung the door open. "Move." Boots hit dirt. Medics rushed forward. The major grabbed Evelyn's arm, not controlling, just guiding. "Ma'am, he doesn't have much time." She nodded, no fear, no hesitation, only focus. The moment she entered the tent, the world fell away. Mark lay on a surgical table, stronger than she remembered, older, scarred, but unmistakably him. Monitors beeped erratically. His chest rose in shallow, uneven breaths. His fingers twitched violently, the same tremors she had seen once before. Once. In Syria. "God," she whispered. The Air Force physician beside him looked up, pale with dread. "We've tried everything, ma'am. Nothing matches his physiology." "It wouldn't," she said. "You're using conventional medicine." He frowned. "And what exactly are we missing?" "Everything." She stepped closer. The tremors, the dilation, the temperature shift, the skin tone, she read them like a map. A map only 7 people in the world could read. 6 were dead. That left her. "Move," she commanded. The physician blinked. "Excuse me." "Move now, if you want him to live." The major's voice thundered. "You heard her." The room shifted instantly. Medics stepped back. Machines repositioned. A young pararescue jumper took his place at her side, steady and ready. She rolled up her sleeves. Her scars gleamed under the surgical lights, scars she never explained, never showed, never forgot. Her voice was low but unwavering. "I need full autonomy, no interference, no recordings. If you can't follow that, leave now." No one moved. She stepped to Mark's side. His breath hitched. His eyes fluttered. Slowly, painfully, they opened. He looked straight at her. Recognition, shock, relief, anger, something deeper. "Evelyn," he rasped, voice barely audible. Her throat tightened, but she didn't let emotion break her. Not now. Not when his life balanced on the edge of a blade. She leaned closer, whispering for his ears alone. "I'm here and I'm not letting you die. Not again." He blinked twice, the signal they once used in Syria. "Understood." She took a breath. "A subclavian line," she ordered. 45-degree angle, no delay. The PJ moved instantly. She scanned Mark's face, seeing not just symptoms but pathways, possibilities, risks. She turned to the team. "Listen carefully. I'm about to perform a procedure most of you are not cleared to know exists." She picked up the first vial. "And if I fail, he has maybe 30 minutes left." No one spoke. Outside, rotor blades thundered, radios crackled, soldiers shouted. Inside, everything narrowed to a single heartbeat. Mark's and hers. The past she buried had come roaring back. And this time, running wasn't an option. This time, she would have to finish what she started. Why did his breathing settle the moment her hands touched him? That was the question lingering in the tent, unspoken yet undeniable. Chaos pulsed outside, radios buzzing, rotors spinning, engines rumbling. But inside, the air felt suspended, held together by the quiet certainty in Evelyn Reeves' movements. She didn't tremble, she didn't question herself, she didn't hesitate. But deep inside, beneath discipline and muscle memory, something fragile flickered, something she'd buried long ago. The sight of Mark's face, even twisted in pain, pulled open a part of her she had sworn never to feel again. She anchored herself with breath. In through the nose. Out through memory. "Clamp," she said softly. A medic placed it in her hand before the word fully left her lips. She cleaned the insertion site on Mark's chest with precision, every gesture infused with purpose. His breath hitched sharply. "Easy," she whispered. His eyes fluttered open again, and there it was, a flash of something fierce, something stubborn, something painfully familiar. "You," his voice cracked. "Save your strength." "Didn't know," he rasped. "Didn't think you'd come." She paused for the smallest fraction of a second, a crack in her armor. "I didn't think you were alive," she whispered back. A sound escaped him, not quite a laugh, not quite a gasp, something in between. Emotion. Recognition. Regret. But he closed his eyes again, overwhelmed by the toxin's violent march. The major stepped closer, concern carving lines across his face. "Ma'am, is he?" "He's fighting," she said, "but he won't last if we talk." He nodded, stepping back quickly. Evelyn inserted the catheter with controlled force, her fingers steady despite the storm inside her. Blood backed up, dark and sluggish. Her voice tightened. "His blood chemistry is collapsing faster than predicted." The Air Force physician swallowed. "What does that mean?" "That the toxin isn't reacting like the original Seraphim strain." "Meaning?" She met his eyes, her own full of a cold truth. "Meaning someone reinvented it." A hush fell over the tent, thick and dangerous. Someone had taken the deadliest prototype ever studied and perfected it. And worse, they'd tested it on civilians. The physician stepped forward, shaken. "Who would?" "Not now," she cut him sharply. That's a question for when he's breathing on his own. She injected the first antidote component, clear, viscous, shimmering faintly under the lights. Mark convulsed violently. The PJ grabbed his shoulders. "Ma'am, he's seizing." "No," she said, "he's responding." Responding to what? She didn't look away from Mark, her voice calm as steel. "To me." And the tent fell silent. Every monitor beep. Every breath. Every tremor. Her hands moved with memory, that old, terrifying, sacred memory, of Syria, of a bunker hidden beneath sand and ruin, of the 7 soldiers selected for something classified above top secret. Seraphim, a biochemical program designed to create resistance to neurotoxic compounds that should have been impossible to survive. Only 7 made it through the trials. Only 7 endured the aftermath. Now 6 were dead, and the 7th was dying in her hands. A metallic taste filled the air as Mark's pulse spiked to dangerous levels. Evelyn leaned over him, her voice low, personal. "You listen to me, Mark Danner. I didn't drag you out of a burning compound in Syria to watch you die on a table in Nevada. You hear me?" His body trembled, teeth clenched, breath fractured. "Fight," she whispered fiercely. "Just fight." She pressed the second syringe into the line. This one burned bright red. The room seemed to tilt. The lights dimmed. The hum of machines grew distant. Or maybe that was just Evelyn's mind slipping into an old rhythm. The rhythm of battle, the rhythm of survival, the rhythm she thought she had escaped. The PJ's voice cracked, his heart rates dropping. "Let it," she murmured. "What?" "It has to fall before it can restart." "That doesn't make sense, ma'am." "It does if you've seen what I've seen." And she had. She remembered Mark gasping on the desert floor, toxin ripping him apart while bullets flew overhead. She remembered the way she slammed her own body over his to shield him, screaming at command for evac, refusing to let him die. She remembered his whisper, barely audible, "Don't leave me." She hadn't. Not then. Not now. Mark's chest stilled. The monitors shrilled. "He's coding," the physician shouted. "No," Evelyn whispered, leaning close. "He's transitioning." The physician stared in disbelief. Transitioning into what? Her eyes softened, not with fear, but with certainty. The window. The room froze. Only Seraphim survivors knew the window. A 22-second period where the body hovered between collapse and stabilization. The entire fate of the subject hanging in that fragile interval. No textbook mentioned it. No training manual acknowledged it. No military branch admitted it existed. But she could see it now, the faint bluish cast to Mark's lips, the subtle twitch along the inner wrist, the near imperceptible pause in his diaphragm. She leaned down to his ear. "You're in the window, Mark. Don't you dare give up." The seconds crawled. 8, 9, 10. The PJ whispered, "Ma'am, if we don't shock him. Do not touch that defibrillator." "But if you shock him now, you kill him." Silence. Hanging. Heavy. She pressed her fingers to his sternum, applying controlled pressure, grounding him through the darkest point. "Come back," she breathed. "You hear me? Come back." 17 seconds. 18. 19. A flicker. A twitch in his left finger. Her own breath halted. His chest jerked violently. The monitor beeped. Then again. A heartbeat. Slow. Weak. But there. The tent erupted in noise, the physician exclaiming, the PJ swearing in disbelief, medics rushing back to the table. But Evelyn didn't hear them. Because as Mark's eyes opened clearer now, though still shadowed by pain, he looked straight at her. And in that look, she saw everything she'd lost. Everything she still feared. Everything she never said. He parted his lips, voice shaking. "You came," he whispered. She swallowed hard. "Of course I came." "You shouldn't have," he breathed. "They'll kill you too." Her heart didn't flinch. "They already tried," she said softly. "Tonight." His eyes widened. "What?" But before he could say more, a medic rushed in, breathless. "Ma'am, you need to see this." Evelyn turned sharply. "Not now." "Ma'am," he insisted, voice trembling, "it's urgent." She followed him outside, her chest still buzzing from adrenaline, fear, and something dangerously close to hope. He led her to a tactical table, screens displaying live drone footage. Her blood ran cold. On one screen, a warehouse. Burning. Collapsed. Filled with bodies. The major's voice broke. "All remaining Seraphim personnel we were guarding, they're gone. Eliminated. Simultaneous coordinated attacks." She stared. Silent. Frozen. Not 6. Not 7. All of them. Except her. Except Mark. The medic swallowed hard. "Ma'am, it gets worse." He switched the screen. A new image appeared. A mask. Angular. Black. Marked by a symbol she thought she'd never see again. A symbol tied to the man who once commanded them all. A symbol of a ghost. The major whispered, horrified. "Colonel Sparks is alive." Evelyn's heart clenched painfully. Everything she feared, everything she buried. It wasn't over. Mark wasn't attacked randomly. She wasn't fired randomly. The woman in the ER didn't die randomly. This was a purge. One she was never meant to survive. The major turned to her slowly. "Ma'am, what do we do now?" Her voice came out low, controlled, unbreakable. "We fight back." "But how?" She looked at the burning warehouse on the screen. The symbol, the ghosts of her past resurfacing to finish what they started. Her answer was simple. And terrifying. "We start by finding Sparks." Her throat tightened with a whisper she didn't mean to let slip. "And then we end this." Why did the night suddenly feel colder than the desert wind? That was the question haunting Evelyn as she stared at the symbol on the drone feed, the mask, the angular lines, the insignia she once swore never to speak of again. A ghost from a past buried in classified graves. A shadow she once escaped only because Mark had dragged her out by force. Now that same shadow was back. And it had killed everyone but them. The major waited beside her, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the burning warehouse as though staring long enough would change its reality. "What are the chances survivors got out?" he asked, though he already knew. Evelyn didn't look away from the screen. "None." He exhaled, slow, pained. "So we're down to 2. Evelyn nodded. 2 who were never supposed to survive the original project. The major swallowed. Why the purge now? She closed her eyes briefly. She could feel the weight of it, a truth too dangerous to say yet too urgent to ignore. Because the original Seraphim files weren't destroyed, she said. Someone found them. Someone intends to finish the program. "And Sparks?" he asked. Her chest tightened. "He's the only one who could weaponize it." "But Sparks died," the PJ insisted from behind them. Evelyn shook her head slowly. "No, he didn't. Sparks doesn't die, he relocates." The major stiffened, realizing the implication. "You think he faked the death report?" "Or someone faked it for him," she said. "Either way, he's alive, and he's accelerating whatever he started." A medic rushed in. "Ma'am, Mark's asking for you." She inhaled, steadied herself, and followed. Inside the tent, Mark was weak but conscious. His eyes bleary, skin pale, breath shallow. Every part of him trembled as though his body wasn't sure whether it belonged to the living or the dead. But when he saw her, something in his expression shifted. A quiet steadiness, a recognition deeper than words, a loneliness that had lasted too many years. "You shouldn't be standing," she murmured as she approached. "You shouldn't be back," he whispered. She stopped at the bedside. "You said the same thing the last time." His lips twitched in the barest hint of a smile. "And you didn't listen then either." She exhaled hard, trying not to let emotion weaken her. "Mark, we found something." His gaze sharpened despite the pain. "Sparks," he said. She froze. "How did you?" "He visited me," Mark rasped, "before the attack." The tent went still. The Major took a step forward. "He what?" Mark swallowed painfully. "2 nights ago, at the motel where they hid me. Said he had a job, said Seraphim wasn't done." Evelyn felt her stomach twist. "What did you tell him?" "That I quit that world," Mark whispered. "That I wasn't going back." A haunted look crossed his face, one she hadn't seen even in Syria. "He wasn't asking," Mark continued. "He was warning me." Evelyn gripped the edge of the bed. "Warning you of what?" "That someone else took over the research," Mark said. "Someone above him, someone he couldn't control." The Major swore under his breath. "If Sparks is scared, this is bad." Evelyn nodded slowly. "This is worse than bad. This is the kind of operation that never ends clean, not without casualties." Mark's hand twitched, reaching slightly toward her, not quite touching but close enough that she felt the warmth of it. "They want you, Evelyn," he whispered. "They want what you remember." Her heart lurched painfully. "I don't remember anything that isn't already in the files." He shook his head weakly. "Not paperwork, procedure, the antidote, the algorithm." Her blood went cold. He was right. The calibration sequence, the one that saved him twice now, existed only in her head. She created it under fire during the Seraphim disaster. It was never documented. And Sparks knew that. "Evelyn," Mark whispered, "they're hunting you." She swallowed tightly. "I know." Mark tried to sit up. Pain rippled through him. She instinctively steadied his shoulder. A flicker of something old and fragile passed between them. "You left without saying goodbye," he said quietly. She froze. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. "They told me they pulled your body from the rubble." Mark's breath caught. "I waited for you at extraction. You didn't come." Her chest fractured. "Command said it was suicide to stay." He blinked slowly. "I would have stayed for you." Her gaze broke away. "Don't say things like that." "They're true," he said, "and you know it." Her throat tightened. Too much, too fast, too painful. Before she could respond, the flap of the tent burst open. The Major rushed in. "Ma'am, we intercepted a coded transmission. Sparks knows you're alive." Evelyn's pulse surged. "What did the message say?" she asked. The Major hesitated. "It said, Reeves survives, phase 2 begins, bring her in alive." Mark's eyes widened in warning. "Ev, you need to run." She straightened slowly. "I'm done running." The Major exhaled. Relief and fear mixed. "We can relocate you both to a secured base." "No," she said, "that's what he expects. We do the opposite." "The opposite," the Major echoed. "We go after him," she said. The tent went silent. Mark stared at her. "You can't take on Sparks." "I'm not taking him on," she said softly. "I'm ending what he started." The PJ stepped forward. "Ma'am, Sparks has an entire network." Evelyn looked at Mark. "He doesn't know you're awake," she said. Mark frowned. "What does that help?" "If Sparks thinks you're dying," she said, "he'll be less cautious. He'll move faster, he'll make mistakes." Mark shook his head. "Ev, that's too dangerous." "Not being the hunter is more dangerous," she replied. The Major exhaled. "So what's your plan?" She turned toward the screens, watching the symbol again. The mask. The ghost. The past rising from the ground. "First," she said, "we locate his base of operations." And second, the Major asked. She looked at Mark, really looked, the man she once saved, the man she once trusted, the man whose absence had carved a wound she never allowed to heal. Second, she said quietly, we stop pretending this ends without us. Emotion flickered in his eyes, fear, longing, guilt, something deeper. Ev, he whispered, I don't want to lose you again. Her breath shivered. You won't, she said, not this time. A soldier rushed in, interrupting the moment. Ma'am, drone picked up movement near the perimeter. The Major's hand went to his holster. Mercenaries. No, sir, the soldier said, something worse. Evelyn stepped outside with the others. On the horizon, dark shapes moved across the desert, uniform, calculated, synchronized. Not mercenaries. Trained operators. A dozen of them. A unit she recognized instantly. Her blood turned to ice. Sparks' Ghost Division, she whispered. The Major swore. How the hell did they find us so fast? Mark stumbled out of the tent, supported by the PJ. Ev, get back. She didn't. She stepped forward. Unflinching. Steady. Certain. Because she finally understood. This wasn't about survival. This was about debt. About unfinished missions. About the past demanding to be reckoned with. She squared her shoulders. Her voice calm, controlled. Everyone prepare to relocate, the second Mark is stable. And you, the Major asked. She stared at the approaching silhouettes, the ghosts coming for her. I'm going to buy you time, she said. Mark's voice cracked. Evelyn, no. But she didn't turn back. Because some wars don't wait. And some ghosts can only be faced head-on. And because she knew something Sparks never accounted for. She wasn't the same woman who walked away from Syria. She was stronger, harder, and this time she wasn't alone. Why did the desert feel louder when everything fell silent? That was the question echoing through Evelyn's mind as she stepped out into the cold night, the horizon lined with a dozen advancing shadows. They moved like a memory she wished had died long ago, smooth, coordinated, disciplined. Ghost Division. Sparks' personal creation. Vanished after Syria. Rumored dead. Myths whispered only in black-budget rooms. And now they were walking toward her. The Major cursed under his breath. They shouldn't be here. They should be continents away. They're here because Sparks knew exactly where to find me, Evelyn said. How? The PJ asked. Evelyn's voice dropped, quiet but sharp. Because he taught us all to run the same way, and he taught himself how to find us. She watched the unit move, no radio chatter, no signals, no wasted motion. Their formation was intentional, a pincer pattern, designed to trap. Designed for her. Behind her, boots thudded against sand as medics scrambled inside the medical tent. Engines roared to life. Equipment moved. Orders flew. The camp was disassembling at speed. Exactly what she needed. Ev, Mark's voice cracked through the wind. Ev, don't do this. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. If she looked at him, she might forget that this wasn't about survival anymore. This was about the truth, about the 7 soldiers Sparks created then erased, about the promises she broke, about the ghost she carried. She took 3 steps forward. The Ghost Division slowed, as if acknowledging her, recognizing her, respecting her. Her pulse shifted into a calm she hadn't felt since the night everything fell apart in Syria. When Mark pulled her through smoke and fire. When Sparks ordered the strike anyway. When she watched 6 soldiers die. When she was told Mark died too. She inhaled. Exhaled. Major, she said without looking back, get him out of here. No, Mark shouted, I won't leave you again. Her breath wavered barely, but she didn't let it break. We can't outrun them, the Major warned. Not with Mark like this. That's why I'm buying time, she said. Mark's voice strained raw. Ev, you're one person. She stepped farther into the open, the moonlight cutting hard across her face. That's one more than they want to deal with. The Major cursed. She's right, they want her alive, they'll hesitate, that gives us minutes. Minutes, Mark shouted, that's your plan. It's enough, Evelyn said gently. For who? Mark demanded. For them to take you, for Sparks to finish what he started. She closed her eyes. And for a moment, just a moment, she allowed the truth to settle on her tongue. No, Mark, she whispered, for me to end it. The wind howled between them. And then she heard boots crunch behind her. Mark was trying to stand. The PJ grabbed him, holding him upright by force. Let me go, Mark roared. Sir, you can't. Let Emmy go. The raw desperation in his voice cut deeper than any wound she'd carried. It almost broke her, but not enough to stop her. She lifted a hand in the air, a signal only Mark would understand. A signal to stop, to trust, to let her go. His breath hitched, and she could hear it even yards away. She didn't turn around. If she did, she wouldn't walk forward. The Ghost Division reached the 200-meter mark. A commander stepped forward, black mask, white insignia, posture rigid and exact. He spoke through a distorted modulator. Evelyn Reeves. She didn't flinch. You know who I am. And you know what we want, the commander replied. Alive, she said, for Sparks. Yes. And if I don't comply? The commander tilted his head. You will. Her jaw tightened. Why? Because you think I'm afraid of dying. Because, the commander said slowly, Mark Danner is alive. Her heart clenched. And Sparks, he added, wants him too. The sky felt colder. The ground. Sharper. Thinner. Like standing on glass. What does Sparks want with him? She asked quietly. Reconstruction. Evelyn's stomach twisted violently. Reconstruction of what? The commander stepped closer, Seraphim. Her breath froze. The major behind her shouted the order. Move out, move out. Engines roared, tires spun. The camp churned into motion. The commander raised a hand. 10 rifles lifted in perfect unison. But they didn't fire. They waited. Come willingly, the commander said, and he lives. Evelyn's voice sharpened. And if I do? Then Sparks will take what he wants from his body instead of his mind. An icy tremor slid down her spine. They weren't bluffing. Sparks never bluffed. She stepped forward once. Ev, no, Mark's voice tore through the air. Don't you dare. Her throat closed painfully. She forced herself not to turn around. Commander, she said, why revive the program? The commander hesitated a fraction. Then, because Seraphim was never meant to end. Her pulse thudded hard. After Syria, she said, after everything it cost. It was only the beginning, he replied, and you, Evelyn Reeves, were always the key. Her breath stilled. I wasn't part of the design, she said. You weren't, he agreed. You were the anomaly. Her hands curled slowly. Explain. You adapted, he said, beyond all projections. Sparks didn't understand it then. And now he needs it. Her heartbeat slowed into something cold, steady, dangerous. What happens if I go with you? She asked. You live, he said simply. Evelyn shook her head. And Mark. The commander paused. We will extract what we need. Extract, she whispered. You know what that means. Yes. She did. It meant death. Behind her, Mark struggled free of the PJ, his voice breaking. Ev, don't, please, not again. Her breath cracked, not visibly but inside where no one could see. Lightning flashed across her memory. His hand on hers. His blood on her uniform. His voice whispering, "Don't leave me." She had left. Not by choice, but she left. She never healed from that. She doubted he did either. She turned her head slightly, just enough to hear the camp's chaos. Engines straining. Medics rushing. Mark's ragged breathing. He was alive. He was fragile. He was everything Sparks wanted. She faced the commander again. "No," she said softly, "Sparks doesn't get either of us." Before he could react, she reached to her belt. The commander's visor flared, weapons down. But she didn't draw a weapon. She pressed a signal trigger, tiny, silent, nearly invisible. And behind her, the ground erupted. A wall of sand and light burst into the sky as hidden charges detonated around the camp perimeter. The major shouted an immediate evacuation order. Vehicles peeled away in formation. The PJ dragged Mark toward the armored medevac truck. Soldiers scrambled, shouting her name. But Evelyn didn't move. The Ghost Division reorganized instantly, retreating from the blast radius, forming tactical lines. "Reeves," the commander roared, "stand down." She walked toward them. Calm. Controlled. His silhouette reflecting in her eyes. "You want me alive," she said, "so come get me." She sprinted. The Ghost Division surged forward. Gunfire erupted, not to kill but to corral. The desert screamed with light and dust. Behind her, Mark's voice shattered. "Evelyn." She didn't stop. Because this wasn't sacrifice. This was strategy. A diversion. A necessity. A promise. She had told Mark he wouldn't lose her again. She meant it. Even if it meant walking straight into the hands of the Ghost Division. Because sometimes saving someone meant becoming the bait. How long had she been running toward danger instead of away from it? That was the question hovering at the edge of Evelyn's mind as she sprinted into the desert, the Ghost Division closing in around her in a tightening circle. Their boots struck the sand with synchronized precision, a rhythm she recognized too well, a pattern she once learned under Sparks' command. But this time, she wasn't following him. She was outwitting him. Behind her, the forward surgical camp was collapsing into controlled chaos. Engines roared, radios crackled, soldiers shouted evac orders as dust spiraled into the night. Mark fought violently against the PJ holding him back, blood still staining his shirt, breath still shallow, but alive. Her heart twisted at the sound of him yelling her name. Evelyn. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. If she did, she might falter, she might run back, she might choose him over the mission. And the truth was, she wanted to, more than she had ever admitted, more than she had ever allowed herself to feel. But this was bigger than her, bigger than him, bigger than everything they survived. Sparks wanted her alive. So she gave him exactly that. Alive. Moving. Visible. Trackable. A perfect decoy. The commander in the black mask raised a fist, signaling the Ghost Division to halt. Their formation cut off her escape like steel jaws snapping shut. "Reeves," he called through the modulator, "stop running." She slowed, dust swirling around her ankles. Moonlight carved pale contours across her face, revealing determination, fear, and something deeper, something unspoken. "You don't want to shoot," she said evenly. "We will if we have to." "No," she repeated softly, "you won't." His visor tilted. "What makes you so certain?" She raised one hand and tapped her chest lightly. "Because I'm worth more breathing than bleeding." A tense silence rippled across the desert. The commander lowered his hand slightly, a sign she had guessed correctly. "What is your objective?" he demanded. She took a slow breath. You already know. To protect the others, he asked. No, she said, to finish what Sparks began by ending it. The commander stiffened. She could almost feel his hesitation through the air. You can't end Seraphim, he said. It's already evolved. So have I, she replied. Before he could respond, two armored transport vehicles rumbled over the ridge. Sparks' trucks, matte black headlights off, engines softened to stealth mode. Her pulse stilled. He was here, somewhere behind those tinted windows. Watching, calculating, waiting. The commander touched his earpiece, listening. Then nodded. Load her, he ordered. Her stomach clenched, not with fear but with certainty. This was the path she chose, not because she wanted to die but because she wanted the others to live. Because Mark needed time. Because Sparks needed to be stopped. Two operators approached her, their grips firm but not cruel. They bound her hands, hooded her head, and escorted her toward the nearest truck. She didn't resist. Fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. But her heartbeat, steady, controlled, rhythmic, betrayed what she tried to bury. This wasn't just mission. This wasn't just survival. This was personal. Very personal. Inside the truck, darkness swallowed her. Smells of oil, steel, and sand mixed into an old, familiar scent, one that dragged her backward a decade in a single breath. Syria. The bunker. The fires. The screams. The night she lost everything. A voice cut through the memories. Welcome back, Evelyn. She froze. Not because she didn't recognize it, but because she did, every syllable, every tone, every breath. Sparks. Alive. Close. Smiling by the sound of it. You've caused quite the mess, he said. But then again, you always did struggle with following orders. Her voice came out low and sharp. You murdered 6 of my team. No, he corrected calmly. I removed failed subjects. Her blood surged with anger. They were human beings. They were prototypes, he said, as though discussing equipment. And you were the only one who exceeded the metrics. She clenched her fists against the restraints. What do you want from me? He leaned closer. She could feel his breath near her ear. To finish your evolution. A chill ran down her spine. What evolution? She whispered. Project Seraphim wasn't meant to create resistance, Sparks said. It was meant to create augmentation. The nerve toxin was only phase 1. She shook her head. You lied to us. I told you what you needed to hear, he said. And now I need what only you can provide. Her breath caught. What's that? The sequence, he said darkly. The neurological key you developed in Syria, the one that kept Danner alive. She stiffened. That was an accident, she whispered. No, Sparks said, that was genius. He placed a small device on the metal floor. She heard the click. The algorithm is stored in your memory, he said, and I intend to extract it. Her skin went cold. Extract how? He laughed softly. Don't worry, Evelyn, you'll live. Her stomach twisted. Sparks never guaranteed life, unless he meant something worse. But first, he said, voice sharpening, I need the other half. She froze. Other half. Sparks leaned closer. Danner. Her breath stopped. He isn't dead, Sparks said. I can sense that much. You wouldn't be this cooperative if he were. Her heart hammered despite her attempts to control it. Sparks chuckled. What an interesting reaction. You still care for him. She said nothing. I'll find him, he said, and when I do, you'll give me what I want. The truck jolted, stopping abruptly. Voices shouted, footsteps thudded, a gun cocked somewhere outside. Sparks sighed. They've arrived. Who? She demanded. He smiled again. She could hear it. Your rescue party. The doors blew open. Bright light. Sand whipping in. Gunfire. Chaos. Hands grabbed her strong, familiar. Ev, it's me. Mark. Alive. On his feet. Sweating, shaking, barely stable, but reaching for her like she was the last solid thing left in his world. She inhaled sharply. Mark. We don't have time, he rasped. Move. Shots tore across the night as the Major's unit engaged Sparks' forces. Ghost Division spread out in perfect formation, returning fire with merciless precision. Dust clouds erupted with every round. Mark, you're not stable, she whispered as he dragged her from the truck. Doesn't matter, he said. I'm not letting him take you. Her heart tightened painfully. You shouldn't be here. He pulled her closer, breath ragged. Ev, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The world spun around them. Explosions, commands, silhouettes clashing in a storm of bullets and sand. Then, a voice cut through the chaos. Sparks. Danner. They turned. Sparks stood just beyond the firelight, mask gleaming under the moon, posture unshaken. You can't save her, he called. She belongs to the program. Mark stepped in front of her instinctively, shielding her. No, he said, she belongs to herself. Something in Evelyn broke, not a fracture but a release. A weight she had carried for too many years fell away. She gripped Mark's arm. We end this, she whispered. Together, he agreed. They stepped forward in unison, wounded, exhausted but unyielding. Sparks lifted his hand, signaling the Ghost Division to advance. But the Major's reinforcements arrived at the same moment, flooding the battlefield with overwhelming force. Gunfire erupted. Sandstorm swirled. Sparks retreated into the dark. The Ghost Division scattered. Mark grabbed Evelyn's hand. Ev, look at me. She did. And for the first time in 10 years, she felt something she thought she lost forever. Hope. You're alive, she whispered. So are you, he said. Now let's stay that way. He pulled her against him as explosions shook the desert behind them, not out of panic, but out of something deeper, something real. Later, hours later, when the dust settled and Sparks escaped into the night, the Major approached them with a grim expression. This isn't over, he said. Evelyn nodded. I know. Mark squeezed her fingers gently. We'll finish it. She looked at him, really looked, and saw not the soldier dying on a table, not the ghost of Syria, not the man she once lost. She saw the man who fought his way back to her. We will, she said softly, together. The wind softened. The desert quieted. Dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sand in colors that looked almost like forgiveness. And as the sun rose, Evelyn finally understood something she had forgotten in the chaos of war, guilt, and ghosts. Sometimes strength isn't loud. Sometimes survival isn't violent. Sometimes courage doesn't roar. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.